Dark Chosen Ones, top 5 vibration killers you're overlooking. You can have all the power, all the potential, all the ancient codes encoded into your soul, but if your vibration is off, everything in your reality begins to collapse without explanation. You wonder why your manifestations feel blocked. You wonder why people keep misreading you. You wonder why your spiritual momentum comes in bursts, then crashes without warning. And yet you've done the shadow work. You've walked through fire. You've survived isolation and initiation. You've earned your scars. But something still feels off, like your signal is being jammed. And the real issue? It's not always something big. It's not always some demonic force trying to hold you back. Sometimes it's the subtle, unexamined patterns, the overlooked vibration killers that are quietly suffocating your evolution. Especially if you are a dark chosen one. Being a dark chosen one means your frequency operates on a deeper bandwidth than most. You don't just live at the surface of emotions, intentions, and energy, you dwell in the roots. Your aura doesn't just reflect what you believe, it reflects what you embody. And that's why vibration is your greatest asset, or your greatest liability. If your vibration is distorted, nothing you build can sustain itself. The problem is, the spiritual world often focuses on superficial high vibes, mantras, crystals, good vibes only. But you're not wired that way. You're not here to float above reality, you're here to cut through it. And so your vibration must be grounded, raw, deeply aligned. Anything else? It betrays your path.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first vibration killer most dark chosen ones overlook is performing spiritual strength instead of living spiritual truth. This one is subtle because it feels like you're doing something right. You post the deep captions, you drop the truth bombs, you share insights that are real. But inside, you're still exhausted, still hiding your wounds, still pushing down the chaos instead of transmuting it. You become the symbol of transformation, but forget the substance. You begin curating your spiritual image instead of surrendering to your spiritual process. And the vibration doesn't lie. You can't fake alignment. You can't trick energy. Performing power is the fastest way to drain it. That mask you wear to keep others inspired is heavy, and it lowers your vibration every day it stays on. When you're a dark chosen one, your power comes from your rawness. If you've forgotten how to bleed in front of God, you've forgotten how to be real. The second vibration killer is tolerating spiritual parasites out of guilt or unresolved attachment. You know the ones. The people who pretend to love you but always leave you feeling small. The ones who subtly compete with you, mock your intensity, or dismiss your intuitive hits, but still expect access to your energy. You know they drain you, but you've convinced yourself you can help them, or that you're being unconditional by keeping them close. Here's the truth. If your vibration is your temple, these people are termites. They don't destroy you in a dramatic blaze. They hollow you out quietly, piece by piece. And before you know it, you're doubting yourself again. You're questioning your power again. Your vision starts to blur. And it's not because you've lost it, it's because you gave too much of it away. When you're a dark chosen one, your energy is a weapon and a womb. You don't hand it over to just anyone. The moment you let guilt override discernment, your vibration pays the price. The third killer, and this one's massive, is dissonance between your inner world and outer reality. Meaning, you know you're a dark chosen one. You know your soul is on a divine mission. You feel the weight of your calling every day. But your life, your job, your habits, your conversations, your routines, they don't reflect that truth. You still engage in surface-level interactions. You still force yourself into environments that feel dead. You still pretend to be normal around people who couldn't fathom what you've been through. And over time, this dissonance builds static in your field. Your vibration gets confused. Your soul is screaming for initiation, and your life is offering convenience. That gap creates energetic interference, and the only way to close it is radical congruence. That means upgrading your standards, not just what you believe, but how you live. Because when your outer world matches your inner truth, your vibration becomes unstoppable. But when there's a gap, your energy leaks through the cracks. Now pause with me for a moment. Breathe deep. Ask yourself, where am I still pretending I'm not what I already am? Because that right there, that's the fracture that needs to be sealed. The invisible traps, how subtle emotional loops and shadow projections are quietly draining your divine frequency. Not all threats to your vibration scream. Some whisper. Some arrive wrapped in silence. They move through your system like smoke, unseen, unspoken, but absolutely suffocating. And the most dangerous of all, emotional loops and shadow projections that play beneath the surface while you're too busy surviving, striving, or serving to notice. As a dark chosen one, your power doesn't just come from your light, it comes from your depth. But depth is a double-edged sword. The deeper you feel, the more vulnerable you are to vibrational loops that look like emotions but operate like parasites. And until you name them, they will quietly eat your frequency alive. One of the most common traps is the loop of self-doubt disguised as humility. You've seen this one. Maybe you've even worn it. It's the voice that says, "Don't get too confident or you'll lose alignment." It's the energetic shrink that happens right after you say something powerful, when you suddenly pull your truth back like it might have offended someone. You convince yourself it's spiritual maturity, that you're avoiding ego, but it's not. It's unprocessed fear. Fear of being seen, of being too big, too clear, too correct. And that fear becomes a frequency you carry. Suddenly you're not broadcasting truth, you're broadcasting internal conflict. And your reality starts to mirror confused people, unstable responses, energetic chaos. Why? Because you're living in a double signal. I know who I am, but I'm afraid to own it. That loop bleeds energy every time you perform smallness in the name of virtue. But the real virtue is clarity. The real service is stability. Your vibration doesn't need you to be perfect, it needs you to be certain. Another silent killer is the loop of unresolved resentment disguised as shadow awareness. You've done the inner work, you've journaled, cried, forgiven, but underneath it, there's a hum of bitterness that won't leave. Not because you haven't tried, but because part of you believes you needed to suffer. That if you weren't betrayed, if you weren't pushed into isolation, if they hadn't wounded you, you wouldn't have awakened. And that belief creates an energetic paradox. You evolve, but you also quietly resent that it had to cost so much. That resentment, left untransformed, turns to spiritual sediment. Heavy, sticky. It attracts vibrational patterns that match your wound. People who betray, mirror, dismiss, or misunderstand you all over again. Why? Because you're holding on to the memory not as a lesson, but as a definition. You've integrated the pain, but not the freedom. And freedom doesn't come from understanding why it happened. It comes from letting go of needing it to have been any different. But here's the one that almost no one sees: shadow projection disguised as discernment. You start feeling suspicious of someone's energy. You pick up on something off. You label it. They're fake, they're manipulative, they're leaking power, and maybe they are. But what if the frequency you're feeling isn't about them at all? What if it's your own suppressed aspect surfacing through their reflection? You don't want to see your own desire for control, so you call theirs toxic. You haven't dealt with your fear of abandonment, so you see them as flaky. You haven't made peace with your own darkness, so you find shadows in everyone else. This doesn't mean you're wrong, it means you're powerful, because your aura is mirroring constantly, and that mirror, if you're not grounded, becomes distorted. You project what you're avoiding, and that projection, it carries a charge, a judgment, a subtle curse, not on them, but on you. Because everything you label as unworthy in another becomes something your energy will avoid expressing authentically. And that avoidance lowers your vibration over time, not with dramatic collapse, but with slow erosion. You were never meant to suppress your discernment, but you were also never meant to weaponize it against your own reflection. Every time you point the finger without checking the mirror, your vibration splits. And those splits create openings, holes in your field. And then you wonder why your energy feels unstable. It's because your perception is doing battle with your embodiment. So what's the solution? Radical self-honesty. It's the discipline to sit in the tension of not knowing whether what you feel is a red flag or a reflection, and to ask, not with ego but with devotion, what is this showing me about me? That question doesn't weaken your power, it anchors it. Because the more honest you are with yourself, the cleaner your vibration becomes. And the cleaner your vibration, the more your presence automatically repels what isn't aligned. No drama, no warfare, just resonance. Ask yourself this now: what energetic loops am I calling wisdom that might actually be old wounds? What shadow parts am I fighting in others because I haven't blessed them in myself? The unseen rituals, how daily energy leaks and identity attachments are destroying your ascension in silence. Sometimes it's not the storms that drown you, it's the slow, silent drip of energy loss that happens in the smallest of moments. And that's what makes the third vibration killer so dangerous. It's not the explosive breakdowns that sabotage your path. It's the subtle, daily rituals you unconsciously repeat, the ones that feel harmless, even necessary, but are actually costing you your ascension. As a dark chosen one, you are more sensitive to these than others, not because you're weak, but because your wiring is more refined. Your antenna is tuned to a divine channel, so even slight static can distort the signal. The world calls them habits, but spiritually they're rituals, and every ritual either awakens or destroys your vibration. Let's talk about one of the most hidden but lethal rituals: explaining yourself to those not meant to understand you. This might sound like basic advice, but its energetic consequences are massive. Every time you try to justify your feelings, your shifts, your path to someone, who doesn't have the spiritual framework to comprehend it, you lower your frequency, not because they're evil, but because you've entered their reality to gain approval. You've stepped out of your divine seat to sit in theirs, and every time you do that, your aura compresses, your vibration contracts, your sacred timeline wobbles. Why? Because explaining is not the same as expressing. When you explain, you seek permission. When you express, you share without attachment. Chosen ones often get stuck here. We want to be seen, but the need to convince others of our truth is actually a sign we haven't fully claimed it ourselves. So here's the shift. You don't explain the fire, you become it. You don't argue for your transformation, you embody it so clearly that those not meant to walk with you naturally fall away. That's how your vibration sharpens. Another daily ritual that seems harmless but is absolutely destructive is consuming energy that doesn't reflect your future self. It could be entertainment, conversations, even background noise. Think about this deeply. Every single piece of content you consume is frequency programming. If you're watching content rooted in fear, gossip, triviality, chaos, even if it's just to relax, you are inviting that pattern into your field. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what you observe and what you live. So over time, your baseline vibration begins to adapt to what you feed it. Dark chosen ones often feel weirdly off for days without knowing why, only to realize they were absorbing energy that had nothing to do with their mission. The solution isn't isolation, it's discernment. You don't need to live in a cave, but you do need to curate your energetic intake with the same reverence you give your output, because what you consume is the silent architect of your aura. Now here's one that cuts even deeper. Identifying with your past wounds as your power source. This one is subtle and incredibly seductive. Many dark chosen ones awaken through pain, trauma, rejection, loss. The darkness carved the depth, and so naturally the mind begins to associate pain with power, suffering with identity. You start believing that your edge, your wisdom, your insight came from what broke you, and that belief creates a binding. You unconsciously recreate suffering so you can access clarity. You stay in cycles of emotional intensity, not because you haven't healed, but because some part of you believes the chaos keeps you real. That's an illusion. Yes, your wounds shaped you, but they are not your source. Your source is beyond the pain. It's the stillness that emerged once the screaming stopped. If you continue to identify with the wound, you anchor your vibration in the past. But when you begin to identify with the essence that survived the wound, you unlock a new energy altogether, sacred detachment. It doesn't mean you forget. It means you stop using the wound as proof of your depth. You let your light define you, not just your shadow. Ask yourself right now, what part of my life still runs on outdated rituals? What daily patterns feel comforting but are secretly keeping me aligned with an older version of me? The universe responds to frequency, not intentions, not potential, not words, just pure vibration. And if your rituals don't match your resonance, they will corrupt it, no matter how spiritually advanced you are. The final vibration killer, how fear of your own power is blocking your highest timeline without you knowing. There's a moment in every dark chosen one's path where the enemy is no longer external. It's not the toxic people. It's not the spiritual warfare. It's not even the energy attacks. It's you. More specifically, your own fear of your actual power. Not the power you dream of, not the version you fantasize about, but the real, raw, altering vibration that sits inside you right now, dormant, waiting. And why is it dormant? Because on some unconscious level, you're still afraid of what will happen if you fully unleash it. That fear, that hesitation, it's the fifth and final vibration killer. And it's the most devastating of them all, because it doesn't feel like fear, it feels like delay, like preparation, like I'm still healing, or I'm waiting for the right moment, or I don't want to be arrogant. But beneath all those justifications is one silent belief. If I fully own who I am, something bad will happen. Maybe you fear you'll be rejected. Maybe you fear you'll be too much. Maybe you fear the responsibilities, the expectations, the exposure. You've seen what happens to those who shine too brightly. You've seen how the world chews them up, or how the collective projects their shadows onto them, and so, quietly, you shrink, you dim. Not obviously, you're still doing the work, you still talk about purpose, but when the portal opens, when the exact opportunity to act, speak, or stand fully arrives, you hesitate, you buffer, you overthink. That momentary pause becomes a micro-decision, and that micro-decision sends a frequency to the universe: I'm not ready yet. And the universe listens. Here's what no one tells you: your vibration is not determined by how much light or knowledge you hold. It's determined by how much of it you're willing to live out loud. Every single time you delay a soul-aligned action out of fear of being seen, misunderstood, or judged, your vibration drops. Not because you're bad, but because your frequency gets confused. One part of you says, I'm chosen. Another says, but don't look at me. And the universe can't align with contradiction. It only aligns with coherence. So ask yourself this: what would happen if I let all of me be visible? Not the curated version, not the palatable version, but the wild, mystical, inconvenient truth of who you really are. The part that doesn't want to wait for permission anymore. The part that already knows what needs to be done. That's your real self. That's your real vibration. And here's the catch: your highest timeline isn't waiting for you to feel ready, it's waiting for you to become real. The longer you stall behind false safety, the longer that timeline remains in limbo. This is the tragedy of most powerful souls. They weren't defeated by darkness, they were slowly drained by indecision. So, how do you break it? You do the thing your old self would have never done. You walk into the room, you speak the truth, you hit publish, you make the call, you stop rehearsing, you stop hiding behind preparation, you stop seeking signs and confirmations, you become the confirmation. You act as if your vibration is already clean, already calibrated, already divine. Because it is. You're not here to prove it, you're here to transmit it. Dark Chosen One, the world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your presence, your realness. And yes, there will be projections, misunderstandings, energetic backlash, but those are symptoms of expansion, and you were born for it. You weren't chosen to survive, you were chosen to shift the field. And that shift begins when you decide, truly decide, to stop fearing your power more than you fear staying stuck. So one last time, ask yourself, what would my life look like if I acted like I was already trusted by the universe, already backed by unseen forces, already walking in full divine authority? That version of you, It's not somewhere far away. It's right here, on the other side of one decision, one choice, to no longer overlook your own light because it burns too deep. And when you make that choice, your vibration doesn't just rise, it becomes unstoppable, because you're no longer waiting, you've become the portal.